Right, welcome along to focus of the month, which is exercise. So today we're going to talk to Claire Doherty, who I will let introduce herself in a second, about ways we might need to change how we exercise, ways exercise impacts on our hormones, and ways that we can future-proof ourselves through exercise. Over to you, Claire. Give us a quick introduction.
Hi. So for those of you that don't know me, I am an integrative health coach. So I trained as a physio 25 years ago, and I've just qualified as a registered nutritional therapist. I have previously had a diploma in nutritional therapy. I'm also a health ergonomist, and I was an Ironman triathlete. So I've got lots of different areas that I draw on when I, think and talk about exercise.
It's really important because a lot of the discussion in the exercise videos for this month are focusing on how we can start being more active, how we can incorporate exercise into life, type of exercise we should be doing, and so on. There can be a danger's not quite the word I want, but there can be a temptation to over-exercise as we gain weight through this period and things like that. And so I wanted to cover off how that affects hormones, how we can find the right exercise for us, and how that might be different to what we've done until now.
It's really easy to actually over-exercise because exercise is addictive, and it's an addiction which society in a way promotes because it is important. We do need to exercise, but there's also this mentality with certain types of exercise that we need to keep going, we need to be really tough, we need to push through it, we need to stop the moaning. And we've kind of almost moved away from listening to our bodies and what our body wants to, I've got a regime, I've got a training plan, this is what the internet says that I should do every day, so therefore, even though I'm feeling really tired and I don't want to, I'm going to go and do this. That's where the risk comes in, I think, that sort of risk that you were talking about. And I talk about this from a personal experience as well, because I didn't realise, but I was hugely addicted to exercise. And if you're not exercising and you're feeling guilty, that is a warning sign, I would say, that actually you probably are addicted to exercise, because when we're addicted to something, what we're addicted to is that guilt and that downer. So whatever the addiction is, whether it's alcohol or drugs or exercise, when we're doing it, we feel amazing. But it's that downer we actually become addicted to, because that gives us the push to go and do it again. I'm going to beat myself up, so I'm then going to go and do this again. Cardio exercise is particularly good at doing that, because when we exercise cardiovascularly, so running, cycling, aerobics, we produce endorphins, which are those feel-good hormones. Now, they're really, really important because they are natural painkillers. So when we're going through these transitions in our lives and we start to have aches and pains, which we do because as estrogen levels drop, our pain sensitivity increases. And so for some people, releasing these endorphins when we exercise is a really helpful way of trying to manage any aches and pains. But the danger is that then we become addicted. There does need to be a little bit of balance. And with the change in hormones that we get as we, approach menopause and go through it, this influences our body composition. So it's harder to build muscle, it's harder to keep hold of muscle, and our bone density can change. So cardiovascular exercise can be a little bit of a double-edged sword, because it's easy to become quite addicted to it, as I've already said, but we need it because it keeps our hearts healthy and it keeps our cardiovascular systems healthy. Also, if it's weight bearing, it will keep our bones nice and healthy. But what it won't do most of the time is to keep that muscle mass nice and healthy. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't do cardiovascular exercise. I absolutely think you should. What I do promote is a balance between maybe weight-bearing exercise that's not high impact, that's maybe not cardiovascular, and a little bit of cardiovascular exercise. As we change and as our bodies grow older, we can't actually sustain taking the same amount of impact through our joints anyway, because you will increase the aging process, you will increase wear and tear, you will increase free radicals in your body, and all of that has an effect on the health of your joints and your ligaments and your muscles. So doing ultra marathons and paving the pavements every day and doing 100-mile bike rides every weekend actually begins to have a deleterious effect almost on your body. There's a tipping point as we age where it becomes less beneficial. But if we can mix a little bit of that up with some weightlifting or some yoga or some Pilates or some CrossFit or something like that, then we have a much more rounded approach to our exercise. The other danger, I think, is as well, is feeling that you've got to do any type of exercise to an excess every day. Now, most of the research will point to the fact that if you're doing about 30 minutes 5 times a week, that is enough to keep you fit and healthy. What I see happening is as our body's changing, as you know, we get a little bit thicker around the waist, which is what happens during perimenopause, is that we try and launch ourselves into this cardiovascular exercise thinking it will burn off that body fat. And what can happen is that your body can become stressed. And so exercise is a stress. Life is a stress at times for some of us. We might have work stress, we might have stress in the family, all sorts of different stresses. And exercise is actually a stress, but we don't always see it as that. And so when we're having these extra stresses, your body will respond by producing stress hormones because they are a basic survival mechanism. So we're hardwired in any time of stress to produce stress hormones. But what that can actually do is that impacts your sex hormones even more, so can upset the balance of estrogen and progesterone, testosterone, because the master hormone, which is called DHEA, which these hormones all come off, basically decides that your body needs to prioritize stress hormones more because you need those to survive. And your sex hormones, well, you probably don't want a baby at the moment because you're really stressed anyway, so we'll just, won't bother making those properly. And so what happens is your already fluctuating sex hormones become even more fluctuating, and you end up with a lot of stress hormones circulating around your body, sometimes because what you're doing is exercising a little bit more than your body actually needs. So when this happens, it actually has a negative impact on your weight, because stress hormones, they make us retain water, they naturally make us reach for energy-dense foods, because that's what they do. They influence our food choices, but they also make us, our bodies lay fat round our middles, which is the very part that we don't want it when we're going through this change. So it's a bit of a catch-22. So I would urge anyone that is doing purely cardiovascular exercise that feels that their body is changing to really kind of step back and think, is there a better way for me to be exercising? Do I need to maybe exercise only 3 or 4 times a week? And would it maybe be better for me to change the type of exercise that I'm doing? Because weights and yoga, Pilates, they don't have the same sort of stress effect on our bodies as cardiovascular exercise does. Running and cycling, you are literally, and swimming to a certain extent, you are literally running away from something, so you are in fight or flight mode. Whereas when you're doing weightlifting, it's a bit more of an intermittent exercise because you're resting between each exercise, and although your heart rate is increasing, you're not actually kind of running away from everything. So it's a slightly different exercise. And particularly with yoga and Pilates, obviously they're quite relaxing, so you've got a completely different form of exercise there. And I think it's something that we overlook quite a lot. We do look at exercise and think that will help me to lose weight, because actually if I move my body more, I'll be burning more energy, which makes perfect sense, except for when we're going through these changes, because it's not the same body as it was 20 years ago. And sometimes we forget that. We tend to still think that our body works exactly as it did when we were 18 or when we were 25.
Because a lot of us are still that age in here.
Yeah, exactly. But our bodies change, and just as we need to eat different things as our bodies change, we need to maybe exercise in different ways as our bodies change, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So just as a sort of an overview question, which is probably going to be difficult to answer, but so if somebody is currently exercising a lot, so they're training for maybe ultra marathons or long distance triathlon or something like that, obviously if they're getting on fine,
Brilliant.
carry on.
Absolutely.
If that person is starting to find that really they are more fatigued than they used to be, more affected by their period cycle, they're still gaining weight around the middle, that's the time to start addressing it. Would that be a fair summing up?
Absolutely. I would say that, there'll be all sorts of warning signs. Fatigue, definitely.
Warning signs that a lot of us overlook, because when you're training to that level, you're tired anyway, aren't you?
You are tired. What we don't understand is that it's a different form of tired. When you finish doing 60, 70, 80-mile bike ride or, running 20 miles, you're going to be tired. You should not be waking up the next morning and still feeling tired. If you are, that is a warning sign. It's not, oh, I ran 20 miles yesterday. No, because actually your training should be progressing you so gradually and preparing you and adapting you that you are recovering.
Yes.
So if you're waking up and you're knackered, you need to rest. So a really good app is like the HRV apps that look at your heart rate variability. And so they're quite nice little things that you can use to if you're not sure and you're questioning yourself, which I think is really quite common because we've sort of forgotten how to listen to our bodies, or maybe we don't trust ourselves very well, then those little apps can be quite useful. But you will have things like you'll be craving maybe salty food or sweet food more because it will be helping to give you a pick-me-up. You might be craving caffeine more. You might be feeling a bit bloated, or you might be thinking, why am I putting weight on or not losing weight? And I'm doing like 10 hours of exercise a week. And all of those things are actually signs that maybe the training that you're doing and the exercise that you're doing isn't actually very healthy. We do override that with our minds. We battle it because, society tells us that the more exercise we do, the thinner we'll be and the healthier we'll be. But there's a tipping point, and with anything in life, the dose is either the cure or the poison. We can do too much of something just like we can do too little of it.
And I just want to quickly say, because obviously some people watching this will be starting their exercise journey and thinking, oh my God, should I not even start? And that's absolutely not what we're saying here.
No.
What we're very specifically talking about the negative effects of too much cardio exercise, aren't we? We're really, it's quite a niche thing, but
it's absolutely, you do need
a lot of it, and I've experienced it, and so we both knew we needed to talk about it.
No, 100%. Exercise is really important for your bone health and for your heart health when you're going through this transition. So I recommend my clients try and exercise 4 or 5 times a week, between half an hour and an hour, but no more than that, because we don't need any more than that. We really do not need any more than that. The other thing that I recommend is that if you've got a sedentary job, if you're sitting down all day, that you go out at lunchtime and you do at least a 15-minute walk away from your desk to get your heart rate up and to get your circulation going, which will help you. And that during the day, you try and get up from your desk every 45 minutes to get a drink, go to the loo, even if it's to stand up and just sit down again, just so you move your muscles and your joints a little bit. But 4 or 5 times a week of a structured exercise session is generally what I would recommend, and it is really important. So if you are thinking of starting an exercise journey, then I would definitely urge you to pursue that and to go with it, because it will help you. You can still produce endorphins going for a half an hour run, which will help you manage your aches and pains, which will help your bone density, which will help your heart health, and which will help your muscles. And you can still stretch for half an hour, do yoga for an hour, do Pilates, lift weights, which again will help your flexibility and your muscle mass. And weightlifting does affect your bones as well, so again, your bone health. So I'm not by any means saying don't exercise. What I'm saying is, please don't think that doing more is always better.
Absolutely. I just felt we probably ought to have covered that off, because I didn't want us to be putting off people who are just thinking that they want to start. And I will just quickly say, and I suspect I may find myself saying this in a lot of the exercise related videos, an amazing way to get started moving more, if you can't bear the thought of structured exercise, is to get a dog.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Honestly, I just think it is, you have to go outside. You have to focus on that little person, albeit fluffy person. You have to talk to other people. It ticks so many of the boxes for mental well-being and physical well-being, and all in the parcel of something that loves you unconditionally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But that's just my personal
experience. Let's all get a dog.
Let's all get dogs.
Brilliant.
But so to recap, for people who are exercising a lot, and by a lot we're saying what, sort of 10, 12 hours a week and more.
Yeah, we are saying that, but actually you can also be over exercising, only doing 6 or 8 hours a week if your body is actually so tired. It's not always the amount that you're doing, it's definitely, as you pointed out a few minutes ago, how your body feels and if you're getting those signs. I would say if you're exercising most days, 5 or 6 days, and you're doing, in excess of 8 hours is the more common pattern, and you're feeling tired and you're feeling ratty and irritable, and you're not losing weight, and maybe your sleep's affected and you're thinking, well, maybe it's this perimenopause and that's why I can't sleep. And maybe it is, but consider the fact that if you are exercising all of those hours and you are feeling tired, that exercise might be impacting your sleep in a negative way. And actually, if you just pull back a little bit, your sleep might improve slightly.
Yeah, and I think for all of us, there's a middle ground between over-exercising and not exercising. There's that beautiful middle ground, which is different for everybody, but there's a beautiful middle ground where you get the right amount of exercise for your body that helps you sleep, that keeps your stress levels down, that helps your hormones regulate. And it's finding that. And I think one of the really key messages of perimenopause is to learn to listen to our own bodies.
Definitely.
We all charge through our 20s and 30s and maybe early 40s, being all things to all people and thinking we can be invincible, and actually following primarily male training plans. But we won't get onto that topic right now.
Yes, absolutely.
But actually, most exercise has been primarily designed with men in mind. Our bodies are different. Our cycles are different. Our energy fluctuations are different. And actually, I think if one big thing we can learn from this phase in life is to listen to our bodies and learn what we need, then we're doing pretty well for the next stage of life.
Absolutely agree.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much, Claire.
You're very welcome.